All right, and I'm back. So I blade swapped this fan and I took the original blade out and I put one of the blades from my new box fans on here. And I'm going to show you how it actually should perform just as a benchmark. It's kind of difficult to showcase this, but the bottom blade, that's the good blade. The top one is the bad blade. So the bottom one, the tip of the blade is flat, but the middle portion has a good scoop to it. This one on the top, it's all kind of just flat, kind of. I don't know how to explain it. But I think the bottom one's got a better aerodynamic to it. You see how it's got a nice scoop to it? Like it goes flat and then it scoops up. This one doesn't scoop up. Both of these blades are pretty shallow blades. You know, the older pedal blade sets were a wider blade, but these are much more narrow. For example, even the modern Weather Shield, I think, has a wider blade compared to your little cheap 3733. I think that's what the issue is. When the blade is narrow, it has to have that little scoop to it. But I thought if the blade was flat, that would add a better angle to it. So I'm going to try to reverse this. I'm going to try to make it similar to this blade, where it's flat at the ends, but it's got a nice little scoop to it. I think that's a more aerodynamic blade. Even the Weather Shields, today's Weather Shields use something like that. Like the tips of the blades stay kind of flat, but like that part of the blade, the middle part, has a nice scoop to it. So I'm gonna try that. I also did want to mention that I did pitch this blade a few days ago. I did the same thing that I did to this blade, where I just bent the middle portion of the blade. I bent that up and I kept the tips flat. So this portion right here has a really good scoop to it, but the tips stay flat. And this fan kicks out a ton of air. It actually improved the airflow. So I used that same logic over here and it made a pretty big difference. Hey guys, so I was somewhat able to fix the blade. So I was correct the whole time. The tip of the blade is supposed to stay flat, but the rest of the blade as you work down is supposed to gain pitch. Because when you pitch the tip of the blade, I think because the blade is so shallow and small at the end, that when you add pitch to it, it just seems to throw off how the blade's supposed to move air. At least that's what happened to me. So when I made the tips flat, it seems to throw out more air. So the blade now spins faster too, and it no longer has that restricted, unhealthy sound. It kind of sounds more like a high velocity fan in my honest opinion. And it moves way more air, but the balance has gotten way worse. I mean, this thing is hard to use. It's so out of balance. It's ridiculous. Here we go. Look at that balance. That is terrible. Look at that. Look at that. That's terrible. You can't make that up. That's awful. It's a little bit better on low. And the low speed is nice and quiet. It gets pretty loud on high. I mean, the low speed is pretty quiet, which surprised me for a cheap box fan, because most of these cheap box fans have pretty fast, pretty loud low speeds, but this one seems to still have a decent low. It gets pretty loud on high speed though. But this thing shakes so bad, I really don't understand how I'd be able to use this thing practically. So the balance got worse, but it moves more air and it's a little bit quieter actually now.